Hi everyone. I'm here with my cat Marley, who is a Flame Point Himalayan. If you want to see what he looks like, Marley, Marley, look up, bud, look up, say hi. There he is. It's a Flame Point Himalayan. He's a very sweet kitty. So today, I thought I would do something a little bit different and talk about food in the Bible and the Bible's point of view on, from my perspective, if meat is really necessary. Now, look, I'll put it this way, and I'll start off with this verse. Okay, it's 1 Corinthians 10:23. I have the right to do anything, you say, but not everything is beneficial. I have the right to do anything, but not everything is constructive. So that's a Christian liberty kind of thing. You know, there are things that may not be beneficial to do because it might, offend others, as in cause others to sin. Like talking about meat sacrificed to idols, Paul would talk about that. And, if you know it is, then it's probably not best to do that because it could offend others, as in cause them to sin. There's only one that I know of that we're, as Christians, supposed to abide by is to not eat blood, are things that have not been, properly drained and also have been properly drained. Anyway, my big point here is, whatever we do, do it all the glory of God. And so there's nothing that says, and unless you have a certain vow that you've taken or something like that, for the vast majority of us, there's nothing wrong with eating meat. There's nothing wrong with eating only vegetables, or only plant life, only plant-based foods, or a combination of them, or there really isn't a problem. The only thing I would say is, is everything beneficial? Well, we can eat, potato chips and candy bars and McDonald's and, name your not whole foods and minimally processed foods kind of thing. Yeah, we can eat those. We're allowed to eat them. It's not unlawful to eat them. But are they the best to help us to do what we need to do, to be good to others and to be someone who is a good testimony to those who are unsaved and to encourage those who are other Christians? Well, some people can get away with it for a while, and then it can start to cause major health problems that can limit what we can do. And I know, I'm not bad. I would eat some junk food. My big problem was lots of bread and cheese and pastries and things like that was my biggest problem. And so the big thing is, I would say that while there's nothing that's wrong with necessarily, there's what's best, right? Is it beneficial? Well, so I would say whole foods that that you tolerate. Like there are certain things like soy. I do not tolerate soy, so that one's not very beneficial for me. Whey is not very beneficial for me. That's a minimally processed. Like it can be a processed one, but it depends on how it's done. Not the most beneficial. Lamb, I'm allergic to lamb and sheep's milk and that sort of thing. But other than that, and also soy. Well, of course that's soy sauce is soy. Yes. Okay. Anyway, there are certain things that aren't too beneficial because I really get sick from them. So, and you know how that goes. But yeah, maybe what I would say is some foods, they're tasty. I get it. I've been there, okay? I'm no spring chicken and I don't look like a spring chicken, but I've been there. I've tried all these things. I've thought, well, that's perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with it. I can do that. It's, like it's not, I don't have diabetes or pre-diabetes from it. And for a while I got away with it. And then, but I've always been on the chunky side, and I've been obese for quite some time, only I'm right on the borderline of no longer being obese. I keep getting really close to it. And then I had a cheat day and cheat meal on a day, one meal. I had chicken fried steak with mashed potatoes and gravy, and of course, and green beans, and a dinner roll. And that was most of what I ate for the day. I had some fruit, and I had some fruit in the evening. But yeah, that was something I hadn't had for over a year, and I really wanted one, and it was a good one. It was a made from scratch one, and yeah, it was a perfectly. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself every once in a while, or whatever. But the thing is, people are like, well, I don't want to give up these foods. Well, you know what? I learned that whole foods, once you get used to them, I mean, some of us, we eat whole foods and we don't realize we eat whole foods. Like I keep saying, guacamole is basically made from whole foods. It's avocado, it's lime, it's often onion or garlic, it's lime juice, it's cilantro, things like that. It's really pretty much whole foods put together there, but it's not a low calorie thing, but there are ways of eating it that they're perfectly fine. It's usually what you eat with guacamole, but steaks are whole foods. They're fruits. A lot of people like to eat fruits like watermelon. And things like that are particularly yummy. But there are many things that are delicious, but it's learning to get a taste for that. And after a couple months, my taste buds were like, yeah, I've always liked whole foods, but now I really kind of prefer them because I'm eating them predominantly, like 95% of what I was eating was whole foods 4 days a week. And I was staying away from the ultra processed, and that included fast food and that kind of thing as well. And I started to prefer them. And taste buds do change over time. So it's really not that difficult to do. And they are better for me. How do I know? Well, my digestive system is much improved. I don't have near the issues that I used to have. My indigestion, acid reflux is pretty much gone unless I have something spicy late at night or something like that. I pretty much can, I'm fine. And other things that I won't talk about that could kind of affect my life a bit. I feel better. I have a lot more energy because I'm eating foods that have enough nutrients in them. Because that's the thing about ultra processed foods. A lot of things that I'm talking about bread aisle bread too, by the way. That's boys, that's not good. Anything with more than five ingredients or more could be a problem if it's a package type of thing, or something you find at the store, or something at the fast food. I know most of you know that French fries, most of them have like 11 ingredients in them. They're not just potatoes fried in some kind of oil. But there are a few exceptions, but for the most part, that's often true in most French fries these days that you get in the restaurants, especially like fast food and casual restaurants and casual dining restaurants and all of that. But the thing is, what's best for our health that helps us do our job here on Earth, That's what I think is, and what helps me, be somebody who has the energy to do things at church, help out at church, or just be a person who's able to help someone who needs to be driven somewhere, or to walk with somebody somewhere, or to be able to lift somebody or whatever. I'm trying to be in the best health with everything else that's going on in one's life. Can be a really important thing to think about. You're like, well, I don't have all day to cook. Well, you know what? Lots of days I don't cook. It's easier not to cook, but sometimes I do cook. Like I can boil an egg, and there we go. There's a whole food. Scrambled eggs are very easy to make. There's lots of things you can make in 5-10 minutes at the most. There's just having some yogurt. You know, there are many yogurts that are quite good for you, like Faya yogurt's one I particularly like. It has so few ingredients. Yeah, you can get the kind with the fruit, and it's got a few. And I don't have a problem with sugar in and of itself as long as it's like sucrose kind of sugar, or there's honey in it or something like that. But you know, there's getting some cottage cheese and having some, having a fruit cup with something that you get from the produce department, or you cut up fruit, or whatever. It doesn't have to be, particularly difficult. You can get some already cooked chicken. You can get, there are ways of dealing with it. There are ways of going to certain restaurants and ordering a certain way that's better. And of course, it's fine to enjoy yourself and have those, the things that aren't necessarily the most ideal all the time. I mean, you go to a birthday party, have the cake, have the, whatever they're having, the whatever it is that you're having, lasagna or enchiladas, or hot dogs or hamburgers, or whatever. Obviously, it's enjoyment of food is not a problem. I just find that, I think that for me anyway, talking about me, I think that I can do a better job for the Lord if I eat foods that are more nutrient dense. And it also has helped me lose a lot of weight, 120 pounds. Yes, I was 121, and today I'm up a little because of the cheat meal. But anyway, I'm almost not obese. I'm like, I have this irritating pound that I need to get off to no longer be obese, and just so close. But that's another video for another day, and I will get there. It just, sometimes you get these little stubborn spots on the scale. At least I got, under 200, so that's wonderful. So now the big thing about meat, I was going to get to meat. Yes. I have nothing against meat. I eat meat. Okay. I just don't eat it all the time. I don't do well with large amounts of meat, or meat every day, or whatever, personally, for myself. I also, too much of any protein, get a very large amount of that, and it's not for me. I tend to gain weight on it and everything else, so it's not my personal thing, and that's me. That doesn't mean that other people might not do well on meat. I mean, if you do well on it, if you're all that, that's great. Here's my thing about diets, and then I'll get to my point on the meat in just a moment. And that is, if you have a diet, as in way of eating, while you're losing weight, or even if you're trying to maintain, whatever it is, but I'm still in a losing weight phase. What I would say is that, generally speaking, and I'm losing my thought all of a sudden. That's great, in the middle of a video. Let me pause it for a second. It won't let me pause it. Okay, great. Anyway, yeah, great. Losing my thought. Yes, if you have a diet that is satiating and you enjoy it, you're not going to want to cheat. Now, that doesn't mean that you might not want to have a cheat meal once a week, or whatever your way of cheating is, whatever your modality for that is. That's a planned cheating event. Then that's a good diet, because you can stick with it. But if you're always like, oh man, I can't wait to have this, and oh man, I wish I could have that, and you just and eventually you just can't stand it anymore. And I believe me, I've been there. I've been there from a too much fasting standpoint, and wanting to binge on anything and everything, and eating the wallpaper. I mean, I wouldn't eat all wallpaper, but you know what I mean. And it wasn't good. I mean, to do fasting once in a while, as in time restricted feeding to a certain point, or maybe fasting once in a while, whatever. But if you've gotten to that point, it's not in my opinion, a real good way of doing things. Enjoying not wanting to off-plan cheat is a good diet. So now I'm going to get to the meat thing, because I'm really not against meat. Okay. And that is, first of all, and I have to put on my glasses to read this because I'm filming, and of course I can't remember everything as well all of a sudden. Um, Genesis 2:16. Okay, remember that that what was first eaten in the Garden of Eden were from trees. You tended it, and it wasn't as much, having, to it was a monoculture kind of a thing, and they didn't keep changing it all until after the fall, right? And then they did, to some extent, and so obviously there is not a mention. I'm not saying that it didn't necessarily happen, but there wasn't a mention of having animals to eat at that time. And yes, things may be somewhat different now, for different reasons, but meat wasn't absolutely necessary then. Now, how did they get their B12? I don't know. Maybe they had milk. We don't know about that. Or maybe they had some eggs, from whatever kind of fowl they had back then. I don't know, or maybe they didn't need it. I don't know, but there's no mention of meat, so I don't know. Maybe not. And then there is another instance that I will talk about, and that's from Exodus 16, and that's when the children of Israel were out in the wilderness after that slavery in Egypt, and they were given manna, which was a sweet kind of crumb type of bread-ish kind of thing, from what I understand. It was not meat, and that's what God gave them to eat, and they could survive on that quite well. But then they started complaining, and they wanted the meat, and so God also provided that for them. So yeah, but you can do without meat. And then there was Daniel, and the big thing with that one is the vegetables. We'll give us this challenge, and for 10 days we'll eat only vegetables. Let's see how strong we are versus you are. Well, the big thing with that one, to keep it all all points covered here. Well, maybe not all points covered, but a pretty give you a good idea, is that the king's table, they had, they would have too much to drink. They had all these delicacies that were, rather rich and not necessarily your most healthy food. And so, they had fair, radiant, strong. They were fair, radiant, and strong because they didn't eat what was, kind of the, the rich stuff that you would, I don't know, like lobster thermidor and queso and chips, or you get the idea, something rich, foie gras or whatever, right? That'd probably be more like it, and and way too much wine, or whatever, drinking a whole lot, you get drunk all the time. That's of course not good. It's not great for weight loss either, by the way. And eating really rich things, they can cause problems like, gout's an issue, and all kinds of other things are an issue. So that's what that was more about. But they did fine without the meat. So all I'm saying is, I'm not saying that we don't need, some need B12 from somewhere. I get it. I get that. But it doesn't mean that, you have to, but it's perfectly fine to do it. So with that, look, everything is fine in and some things not so much moderation, but anyway, a lot of things are fine. Having something rich every once in a while, fine. Having, having a small bag of Doritos, or a small portion of Cheetos, or name it, whatever is once in a while. It's not going to be the end of the world, but I do think that, trying to eat a healthier diet is probably more beneficial. And with all that rambling that I've just done, um, please like, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching. And you have a good day. Bye bye.